Hello everyone, Master Xeon1001 here. In this video I wanted to go through a demo with the SmartBox. I've been doing a lot of videos lately, just kind of loving the SmartBox, and I wanted to just kind of show you guys just what I've been up to with it, just kind of show some of the tools, workflows, things like that, just talk a little bit about hardops. I was working on this previous video, but it was a little too wordy. I figured it would have come off as too complicated or something. So I figured we'd break it down, get back to a box. Boxes are a fun time. Allows us to talk about the fundamentals of these tools and focus on the simplicity of things. So without further ado, let's begin. Hello everyone. In this video I wanted to do something about the SmartBox. So the SmartBox is a shape inside of Hops tool, which can be started by clicking on the Hops icon in the T panel. This comes up if you press T. So now that we have our Hops box, which is in the center because our cursor is in the center, if we hold Control, we get a series of dots that will allow us to adjust the shape. So we can adjust the primary bevel, the secondary bevel, and then the smallest bevel once the computer starts responding properly. There we go. And so by dragging these dots, we can get our SmartBox to be exactly the way we want it to. And this is one of my favorite shapes in Hops tool. I just love coming in and playing with this, especially because of the sort improvements under the Control tilde. Under the arrow, there used to be a last bevel, but now last bevel has been extended into supporting the last version of every modifier that we support for sorting. So what this means is that you can have multiple mirrors in your stack and we'll sort only the last level of mirror. But for the purposes of this video, we'll actually take a look at our stack here under the modifier tab. You can see that it's a screw, mirror, decimate, bevel, solidify, bevel, weighted normal. So what this looks like is we can press Q and go under the modifier scroll, and by just scrolling the wheel we can just see what each of these modifiers is bringing to the table. In fact, let's take it back to the beginning and we'll actually press Alt V to turn on wireframe, and we look through the modifier scroll and you can see that there's some geometry business happening here. So we extrude it out via screw, then we extrude it out on the Y via screw, and this makes it a grid. So for us to bevel it properly, it has to be decimated, which simplifies it to its most planar form. And of course the mirror's in here in order to mirror it across to the other side effortlessly, and then it's decimated, and then it's beveled on the 2D level, and then it's solidified, and then beveled on the 3D level, and then beveled on the micro level, with finally a weighted normal to set this thing up. So really it's a basic shape, but at the end of the day it's literally a vert. So one of the things I wanted to discuss is the bevel. For example, if we bring the bevel all the way out, you can see that we're allowed to overshoot, and if we bring it all the way in, it collapses to nothing, and that allows the other bevel to take over, which is what you're seeing there. If we bring it to 0, nothing. We bring it out, too much. So one of the things I'm suggesting is for the 2.82 versions, we will be modifying this. More likely I'll be modifying it where clamp overlap will be on for the first bevel, and then there will be a weld modifier placed right after the first bevel. So right here. And what that will cause is that when we can bring it all the way in, it'll meet nicely. We can bring it into nothing. So far, so good. So the next one is actually this bevel, which we can see we can clamp overlap all the way to the max, and then we can bring it to nothing. So let's deal with that one. Still a little bit of computer lag here. I'm telling you, this computer's been just giving me the business lately. So we'll move this one down the stack below the bevel that got disabled because it got turned to 0. So if you turn it to 0, it'll disable it, which is a lot better than crashing. But now we just need clamp overlap and we're set. So now I would say that this is a probably slightly better hop shape, a little more user friendly, where you can get in and really have some fun with things without turning the geometry inside out. So if you're following along, this is kind of a good exercise in modifier management, what you see me going through here. As far as the third level goes, I typically leave clamp overlap off because sometimes when the geometry gets too close together, it becomes a limiting factor. So we'll proceed that way in this video as well. The other thing is that all these modifiers, up until these last two, I do not want modified anymore. So we're just going to turn off renderability, which means that these are the only two that will be sorted, and all of these will be ignored in every single case. This also means that for the hops mirror, we'll just remove the H, so it's just ops mirror, and that means that we can actually add a new mirror at the end of our stack via the Alt X. So to do that again, I pressed Alt X and then chose modifier and then mirrored it over on the Y axis. However, I'll probably want to look at this from the front and mirror it on the X axis. So we're keeping this side and we're mirroring over to this side non-destructively using the mirror. And notice that when you add a mirror, it's automatically put before the weighted normal so that it doesn't affect your shading. However, one day we'll also maybe put it below the before the bevel as well, depending on cases. But with these changes, they are things that I like to test and experiment with repeatedly before making a suggestion of change. So let's just get in here and play with our SmartBox. We want a really small final bevel. There we go. So something like that, we can press Alt V, get out of wireframe mode, and now by pressing Alt W, we can actually jump into boxcutter and just begin cutting away on this shape. So one thing I like to do with these smart boxes is just kind of work an area. So I'll come over here, do a cut, do another cut, then do a cut, press T to give it solidification in order to just kind of quarantine that area and make it mine. And we're cutting and just working on only that final bevel level. Of course, we can bring up our dots and modify the shape, but really, once you're working at this point, it's going to get real slow on this computer. It'll definitely begin choking in a bad way if I start dealing with things after putting 100 subsequent mods on top of it, which is anything against the computer, just probably Blender's processing capabilities. You can also see that occasionally I'm getting these like performance hangs, which just is my luck, I guess. I do not know what's causing that, but if for some reason it's only happening on this Threadripper system. So continuing on, we're just cut, and at this phase we're just clicking and drawing. Out right here I'll put a cube, because if there's one thing hops can do that boxcutter can't do yet, which I love saying by the way, is outset. We'll outset. And another thing that hops can do that boxcutter currently can't do is you can press F9 and click on keep bevels, and now we actually have the final bevels, but it looks a little bad, right? So the problem is we kept all of our mods, but we also kept the last bevel mod, and so we don't want that. So part of my notes for the next iteration on updates is to have a levels of bevels preference, where we only keep the first two levels, or we disregard the topmost level. But with systems like that, we have to make it quite clear in order to convey to users what we're going for so they don't get confused. Otherwise, all these systems will appear to be working against you, and you're just running into gotcha after gotcha. So we'll press Alt V, or not Alt V for wireframe, we'll press Alt V for EVHQ, which will get us a viewport that's a little bit more pleasant to look at here, which just goes a long ways for me. And so we'll draw a cut here. And the whole purpose of this video is just to talk about, SmartBox and to love it, and also to pause it and show that there's been some improvements to pause mode. Pause mode is one of those things that we hardly ever used, But now with performance being a big theme, we're now really examining pause mode and what can be done with it to improve it and make it even better. So I'm happy to say that we now have shift to live in pause mode. It's kind of strange that no one noticed that before, but we found it and it's been fixed. So that'll be in the latest update that'll be going live after this video. So boxcutter is still being worked on. Hops is, of course, always in the process of being examined. But at this moment, we are happy to report that there are no major issues on platforms like Mac, or that saga's over. Hopefully we can leave that in 2019 because that was a thing. But notice that as I use pause mode, it's a lot like old boxcutter in 2.79 where you would just cut and the cut would just appear. We definitely want to get some sort of penetration view going so users can see what is actually going on inside of the mesh. Also another performance hang right there. I just don't know what's causing these performance hangs, but I am to the point where I feel like this computer has to be like set outside because I think it has bugs in it, physical bugs. So I'm going to shift D on this shape, and what we'll do is shift click on mod toggle in the Q menu, and that'll turn off every mod. Because we're about to mod scroll. So we're here, there's no more mods past the ones that we bypass sorting on. So there is a purpose for it. It's just not entirely clear to the users what that is. So this is something that we're working on addressing because these systems are all finally starting to come together. Also, with this box, I'm just going to grab this top dot, bring it down, deal with a weird AMD performance hang that happens for reasons I just don't know. I don't know if I need to give this computer water or something, but I just want y'all to know I tried to replace this computer and that computer came here dead. Just dead. Just didn't work. So this computer wins. I'm back on this computer. Lesson learned. So with this particular object, we're going to give it a shader. And we'll start off by giving it a mixed shader. And the top socket will be glass. And the bottom socket will be transparent. And I have an idea for making this an object that shows up in rotation for blank material. Oh wait, my mistake. We just made glass here. And so we want that to be glass, sorry. We'll select this one to give it a blank material, but I want glass to be a type of material that could show up in blank material as inside of its random rotation. So I do get some ideas for that I want to work on going forward. Also, you can see that without the blend mode being set to alpha blend, just not very glassy. But once you do that, you can really get some good looking glass going on here, which is kind of how I've been just partying with SmartBox. I know this isn't like the best asset tutorial, but I wanted to do something basic, specifically because of a comment I saw about things being complex. Like, I wonder if SmartBox is the cure to what ails them. Because I come in here, grab one of these smart boxes, take it for a party, and that's just the end of it. I hope that helps somebody, getting into hops, that you just get in here, get a smart box, put a cube around it, take it, and just cut it out. Well, maybe in a solid mode so you can see it. And also we'll hide the glass for a moment. And then once you cut it out, you're like, yep, that's a good takeout. We'll use a bull shift to turn it into a slice. And we'll just put a blank material on that. Little bit of an AMD hang there. I don't know what's with these hangs, guys, but they've been a part of my life forever. The only reason I'm talking about them now is because I've just lost it. I'm truly beside myself with PC issues. I literally, all I want to do is just work. but I'm on the verge of having to make excuses due to computer issues, which just isn't good because I hate excuses. Excuses are just inadequate. Let's try laser cut in pause mode. So far so good. We'll give that a blank material. You know, I've been telling Proxy that I want blank material to be an option you can set inside of boxcutter to literally cut blank materials, and it'll take a little bit of convincing because blank material is not a material, it's a function that makes a material. So probably gotta be tricky with how we do that. Right here, I just don't like that cut, so I'll bring it back with mod scroll, multi-scroll, which is its purpose. It's supposed to be like a multi-helper. In fact, if we hover over it, you can see that its default will take you through to booleans, which is what you would normally want, and then shift would allow you to kind of go through your modifiers and a scroll if you wanted to, with control just literally toggling everything off. Just the quickest way, just control click to toggle that off. So a lot of the decisions made with this latest version of hops, I definitely am still enjoying quite a bit. I mean, I made them for a reason, and part of it was to make hops a little bit more accessible. Also for this slice, let's bring back the piece that made that, and let's bring a second one down here, which if we're lucky will also make some glass in that little area. So far so good. Just taking advantage of our booleans there, just to show why we deal with them the way that we do. So here we are, just quick little smart cube, 16 minutes in. We'll just do a cut here, and we're in pause mode, so we can't really see everything live. So that's kind of why boxcutter's live now. But when things are getting slow, I just want you to know that we're here for you. So at this point, one of my favorite things to do is extractions from derived meshes. So we'll just convert that to a mesh after Shift-D duplicating it. So what I do is I Shift-D duplicate it, then right-click cancel it to place it back where it was. And then in my heart, I know it's the selection. So then I press, I'll just do it again. I Shift-D duplicate it, right-click to cancel. Control A to apply it because I know that is my selection. Then I go in edit mode, select these faces, Control I, and now I have the invert of pretty much that area. So, anytime I find myself explaining this stuff and it becomes complicated to explain, that's when I realize there should be probably a tool made for that. So, more than likely, extractions probably need to be a thing. However, the extraction idea that is in boxcutter for extracting booleans is one idea. We're talking about a different type of extracting here. And the AMD's just hanging. Why are you hanging, bro? I just seriously just want to cut boxes. So we'll do a bull shift because instead of adding thickness, I actually just want the piece back because it was a good piece. That material, too white. If you're watching this proxy, why is that white material here? Let's give it another blank material. In fact, let's just share its material with this thing. And so far, so good. In fact, maybe share it with this material. The other material is a little much, to be honest. And let's proceed. So first thing is a little notching on the sides. Just take some stuff out. And then we do a little front face notching. So right here, things are going to get tricky. And what I mean by tricky is that, if we look at the wireframe, every time I duplicate this around, it's just going to get painful. It's just a matter of time until one of these duplicates just gets a geometry solution that's just so terrible that the bevel just nopes out and just gives up. It probably has already happened. Like if we look at this, we don't want that. Well, that's just terrible, but all these inadequate solutions in here, we could do better than that. That's usually why I work off of edges, because off of edges, you get the edges to be your support edge, making these things not happen. So if we delete this, you can see that these cuts didn't create any of that because they have something to support off of. Like right here, if I cut here, this has a support edge, so it's just a good edge here. That's a good, strong, all-American edge. So let's just get rid of that. But the way that we're going to get around this is similar to the solenoid video. We're going to solve a cube with a cube. The answer to all your cube problems. You bring a sphere in, just too much for a relationship. But cube will keep it simple, get the job done. We're going to convert it to a wire for now, which is why this option is here. Shade wire, shade solid. Sometimes I just need to see something as a wire. Don't even ask me why my A-listing looks like that. Jeez, why does my A-listing look like... This thing looks like crayon. Alright, we're not going to ask any questions on that. We're just going to do a difference. And so now this cube is being used to basically force the geometry in here that we want. Because with a Boolean, you can cut things out, but you can also cut things in. You can also, give things gifts. Like right here, we're giving this cube the gift of life. Like I grant this cube the gift of its own existence. Sorry, just quoting some Mortal Kombat 4 Quan Chi ending there. So, continuing on, now that we have that, we can just work. We can just work and dream without fear of issues. Because if it gets tough, let's put an edge there. So just watch how some of these shapes just get wild, because things are great when it comes to the large detail, but when you get to the micro stuff, that's when you really got to be a little more hands-on, a little more attentive, because otherwise you'll see this kind of stuff in your renders and in close-ups, just terribleness. Nobody wants to see that. Especially you. You're the guy that made it. Or girl. So we'll just put an edge here. Or human. We're not sexist here. So notice that every time I put an edge here, it just gets a little bit better. It just helps prevent crime in the city. And so now we have our smart cube, but probably want to bring this back. And for these bottom ones, they're actually a little close to the bottom, which is causing some artifacting over there. Watch us move it, and it just starts acting right. Maybe right there. In fact, the question for me that I always ask is, why does it look good? God, AMD, can I finish a sentence? Why does it look good over here, but not right here? Why? Is it the mirror order? Probably is. So let's look at our stack, the stack of stacks. And we probably want to bevel it and then mirror it. Nope. Thought that would have been a one-hit kill. I bet it is. I just need to be aware of the mirror, which is what's going on here. Because I'm mirroring it to the other side, but what I really need to do, mirror it to the other side. Watch this. We're going to delete 2 letters off the mirror after the AMD is done choking for a moment for no reason. I literally have nothing open in the background. I actually exited out of Discord. I was watching Proxy sleep. So we're just going to try this again. So now I'm going to mirror it to the other side. And the bevel's still just going to give us a little bit of work right here. We could lower it, but I'm just dying of curiosity. What's causing that? Alright, what is causing that? Because the other side does not look that way. So it could be that one edge of this is working against us, and that's what it was. So now we're back to business, but we now have an issue up here. So where are these issues coming from? And it's because this edge fires all the way into another straight edge. So sometimes our support cube isn't always the most supportive. But these are the things that you encounter when dealing with Booleans that, it's better that I deal with them in a video and talk to you guys about troubleshooting because the next level of troubleshooting is pressing Alt V and going into face orientation and looking at your normals. Those are some good looking normals, and then I see a little bit of red right in front of me. So that's not good. Let's Alt W into Hops tool, and we'll bring back just that one bowl shape and just move it till it's just right. Because we're at the mercy of Blender when it comes to this particular area here. In fact, there's no way we can non-destructively add edge loops up this on the extrusion up on the solidify at this time, or else we would put in support geometry that way. And also selecting a wire can sometimes be a little hard, but these areas that you see that are just flickering occasionally aren't the end of the world. So we press 1, we get out of all that, we go to Alt V, turn off face orientation, and our cube's looking good. We got a good looking cube here. In fact, we could easily put this face on this face if we wanted. So might as well do that just for the purposes of this video. After this computer's done lagging, it just seems to just hate me. I don't know if you guys ever are using your computer and then find the need to just put your hands on your face, but I seriously find myself putting my hands on my face a lot of the time. Just, why am I being done this way by a computer? So, you know what we could do? We mirrored it to the other side. We didn't even need to do that. What we can do is select this, select the empty, Alt X, mirror across it using mirror via active, and you see nothing, right? But you RZ. Alright, that did not work. Let's try it again. And so now it's on the other side. However, what we also need is the cutter that made this happen. That should have done it. There we go. So getting a little weird here, but we can figure these modifiers out and get the result that we want. So what we have is right here, we need to mirror it to the other side, and we're done. So, got a little crate. This computer is just destroying my train of thought. Like, I swear, I tried to get a completely new computer. I don't even want to say the brand name because I want to give them one last chance to refund me my money. So I could just, I don't know. I just am so over it. I just only want to just do a little blending, and my dreams are being cut short by just performance issues. Like, what's crazy is the best computer I have right now is the NUC. The NUC. And the only reason I'm against the NUC, also, why is this not working? So we'll Shift A, add a cube. The only reason that I'm not on the NUC is because this computer I'm on has 128 gigabytes of RAM. That has to mean something. I don't know what it means, but it doesn't mean what I thought it would mean. You know, if someone said, hey, you got 128 gigs, you'd be like, wow, that computer must be capable of powering the Death Star. It's like, yeah, but the Death Star blew up like 5 times in literally every single movie. So the Death Star is terrible, and whatever's their computer system, no one's bragging about it. So, I mean, people saying anything about AMD to me is like qualifies as fighting words right now. I was about to type this script from memory, but I forgot it. Let me grab it real. Alright, here we go. And that command would have been pound cos, open parentheses, frame times pi divided by 30. And I actually like to take this little thing and multiply it by 10 now, which really gets some good results. And so when you put that in the strength failed, it actually results in a nice pulsing, which is just a nice way to end these videos. Gotta pulse on them boys, you know. So I want that cube. So probably the only way I'll get it is by using Alt click to grab it from the context menu. Just classic hacks like that, you know. Hopefully they never take those away from us in Blender, of being able to do things like Shift G and select by linked and stuff like that, because those are probably some of the also I gotta pause it to use array. You know, someone said array was sensitive, and I never knew what that meant. I thought they meant that if you talked about array badly, it'll crash, but array is too damn sensitive. So consider that added to the task list. Still trying to get a few more things done for hops in this inning before we move on to the next thing. So there's still a couple of things I got in mind just to make this release perfect. So now here's our SmartBox, all non-destructive. I mean, sort of. You go in and adjust this thing, you're going to find out what this computer's made of, which is just broken bones and dreams, shattered tears. I can't even get my words right. But I just want y'all to know, like, I had just the craziest adventure yesterday trying to put together a computer. And so now as I sit here back on this computer that lags, I literally can't explain it, but it 30 seconds out of a minute, it's lagging. The other 30 seconds, it's like, whoa, this computer's crazy. And it's been this way for like 6 months. But I didn't do a video that rants about this computer. It's just the computer impacts these videos. And all I want is just a computer that is reliable. So this is already in the book of worst tutorials, so I'll be revisiting this topic in the future when I'm not having equipment issues. In fact, even as I go to click stop, the computer's just choking. Just choking. Doesn't want me to click stop, but doesn't want me to keep going either because it's choking on me working. I'm just going to have to end this video. Thank you all for watching. See you guys next time.